Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 28 of the Purple Hyacinth Story Tinker podcast, and it is called Prying Partner. And today we are with Bundin, Firedancer, and Fwoot.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
This is quite an episode. It goes together with the whole cave arc, and this is the last sequence of that. So in what they're returning from, they have just come from their encounter with 𝗥𝗲𝗍. They had this ninja fight on the rooftop, and Kieran saved her life. So now, and she helped bandage him up. And we open up with her, kind of finishing bandaging him up. And Lauren is looking down and, she's having difficulty saying this. And she says, Kieran, she pauses, about earlier, pause, I just, and then we get a glimpse of just her mouth and nose. And you get the impression because she is having a very hard time saying this, and by blocking off her eyes, which is her expression, and like the window to the soul, it just shows you how much she has difficulty with opening up and being true. And she says, thank you. And she's looking down and not looking at him. It's very, very difficult for her to acknowledge that she needs help from other people. And I think she's like that in general, but I think also especially for Kieran, because she doesn't have that kind of relationship with him. They've been just joking. There's obviously a lot of undercurrent of antagonism between them, and she has a lot of doubts about him and her deal. So it's a lot for her to admit that and say that to him.
Yeah, no, and I think especially it's because it goes so against her nature to thank someone that she knows is a murderer and is an assassin and is the person that she would usually be going after. So, but I also think that she at her core is she recognizes when people do things for her, and she wants to make sure that she acknowledges that because she wants to show that she appreciates it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. So it's hard for her. She does, that sense of justice that she has inside her does also compel her to, like you said, acknowledge when people have done things for her. She does want things to always be done correctly, despite any difficulty it comes with for her emotionally. And Kieran is surprised by this. He turns around and he has this there's select scenes or panels where we have an open Kieran face, and this is one of them. And to me personally, it's very memorable. I mean, that is my that's my like Achilles heel. People's being emotionally vulnerable. That's I find it very compelling. Something I find it the most satisfying, fulfilling, rewarding feeling, which is why I originally wanted to be a psychologist, to get people to get to this place of emotional vulnerability and healing. So he turns to her and he's like, what? And Lauren, she has a hard time. She's like, I already said it once, so I have to say it again. You kind of like see that frustration. She furrows her eyebrows and she inhales and she says, this time, though, she looks at him full on in the face and she says, thank you. So kudos to her, she, by doubling down, by asking her, again, she got the courage to face him and say it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can relate to Lauren a little bit here, because it is, when you're a very closed off person, it is very hard to just like sometimes give credit to someone who you normally wouldn't, or just kind of be open with your emotions at least a little bit. It's very just, all you want to do is just like wall yourself off, so you just kind of gotta force yourself through it. It is, and character progression. A little bit, yes.
But she did it, which is a step in the right direction. Like,
oh yeah,
she may be slightly morally questionable, but at least she has good manners.
Indeed. She knows where to give credit when credit is due.
Also, I think she would feel bad not to acknowledge it, right? Like, it would kind of eat at her in the same way, like when you do something that is not right. She knows that like acknowledging it and thanking him is the right thing to do, even though it's kind of counterintuitive for her in her mind to be thanking him. But it's true, and in the previous episode, we saw her, the way that she was acting. She's been thinking about that since the moment he saved her. Yeah. So this has probably been like a couple hours since then to like get back and get clean and all that. So she's been like thinking this through for a while. So yeah, this is the best time for her to just thank him for saving her life.
Yeah.
Also, the communication, beautiful.
Even though we get so few of it this season.
You know,
Oh.
I like to think that this episode is a bit of a shift in terms of like their relationship. It kind of changes the dynamic slightly because they're getting to know each other now and kind of becoming more comfortable with each other beyond the deal that they set, which we've already established would not have lasted for long.
No.
So it's good to see boundaries breaking and them being comfortable around each other.
Yeah. It's, I feel like throughout the series, but in season 1 specifically, you can see like shifts in their relationship and like tonal shifts. It's like first you have them meeting, them forming the partnership, and then here you see the slow wall of trust being built, and then more progression, and it's very interesting. You can see it forming, and it's very nice to look at because it feels
Not to say
very
though,
natural.
it's not to say that their relationship is entirely healthy, because their circumstances are not the best type of circumstances to grow close to someone with. Like, if it takes brutally decapitating someone for you guys to even slightly open up and be like, and have communication with one another where it's like still very one-sided, then you might want to rethink where this relationship is headed.
I mean,
I'm
but
just-
still saving your life is a big deal, and it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of violent, but also that could have been her. That would have been her with her head chopped off. So I think, you know, she beggars can't be choosers, you know.
I know, I'm
And
just
also,
saying.
I mean, no, you're completely right.
Yeah,
Their
no,
You're only
situation
gonna
is not
thank
ideal.
someone under those circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not exactly ideal, but they're like, I will admit though, the fact that it took him having to literally save her life from assassination for her to even get the courage to thank him for something. Y'all got too many walls. Y'all got too many walls built up. You
Their
need
priorities, magnificent.
Well, we wouldn't find the story compelling if they were just like healthy Lauren, healthy Kieran, just meeting, you know, on a nice sunny day with no issues, no trauma, no pressing problem. They're like, oh, hello, so nice to meet you. Oh, you're cute, you're smart, I like you, let's be friends forever. Like, that wouldn't be a very great story.
But then what's the intrigue of romance webtoons?
Oh, well, I have my very strong theory about that, but it's
another tangent that we can't get into.
Yes, maybe later.
So she says, thank you. And she says, I owe you my life. And Kieran has this like, oh, I love this battle so much.
This is my favorite.
The genuine shock.
He's like surprised.
How does he manage to look like so innocent in one panel and then like sly and smirky and I was like, this should not be possible.
I can't believe this man has killed like hundreds of people.
I know. I'm like, bruh, you wouldn't think that from these panels. Like, he just looks like I think it's because his face is so open for once, and like you can like see his like genuine emotions, not him masking them with sarcasm. And it's just
I like to say that this is one of the 3 times, especially in season 1, that you see him being genuinely open and himself, and it's because Lauren has surprised him, right? Because the first time you see it is when they're going to the Golden Clover and she's in her outfit and she's got her gun. He like looks at her and he's like, oh, I wasn't expecting her to go this into it. And now it's this one where she's just thanked him, but instead of him just being pleasantly surprised, this is him just genuinely shocked. Because like how Lauren doesn't want to acknowledge that a murderer saved her life, he does. When do you think is the last time that someone has thanked him for saving a life?
Hey,
He is
probably never.
oh,
life.
Bundin.
Yeah.
Bundin. When was the last time Kieran got the chance to save someone's life?
That's also
Exactly.
true.
Yeah, because
like, listen, he's a killer. He's a contract killer. Like, he ain't doing a bunch of saving lives. So I don't know. I feel like it's kind of new for him to actually have the feeling of having saved someone and not just taken life.
And for it to be
Hold up, wait.
acknowledged.
Fire, Bundin. Mindy, I'm not sure if you're into Marvel, but have you guys seen the finale of Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Not yet.
No.
Oh no.
I'm
Okay,
sorry.
basically,
I haven't even seen WandaVision, man. I don't
I
have
know.
Okay.
I only saw the first 2 episodes of WandaVision.
it's a very small moment, but one of the characters in the finale, I hope this isn't like huge spoilers, but like if there are any Marvel fans listening to this, they'll know what I'm talking about. There's one scene where one of the characters who just so happened killed a lot of people that like, which was out of his control, someone thanks him for saving their lives. And it's this one moment where he's a little dumbfounded and it breaks my heart.
Oh,
I may not know what it is. I think I know who you're talking about.
I think I know who you're talking about too. that would,
But yeah, it's the same feeling.
All right, I cannot
Same
share these
feeling,
feelings. I don't know what you're talking about.
Just heartwarming feelings.
It's what they deserve.
Yes.
So Kieran goes from that open expression, and then the next panel is he has his little smile, and it's probably what you said. Like, this is the first time he's being thanked, everything he said for saving a life, and it's just so sweet to see that smile, like a real cute smile on his face. Oh, love it. But then within 5 seconds, he turns that into his sarcasm again, and he puts on this charming smile. And he says, "And since you owe me your life, does that mean I can take you on as my personal servant until you repay your debt?"
He can't acknowledge it.
Cheeky bastard.
Questionable, man.
No, he can't be that vulnerable yet. He has to hide behind sarcasm.
He hides it behind something absolutely absurd.
Conceal, don't feel.
Yes. He wants the topic changed. That's why. Also, I just want to point out, so this this panel right here comes into a theory that I have that has yet to be proven wrong. So, like, okay, so you see the panel, he has like a giant chunk missing out of his shoulder, right? Okay, so my theory, back in episode 5, when you see like the chair scene and like someone's in the chair and they're getting tortured, like, you can see there's blood coming out of their shoulder. You can see that clear. It is almost in the exact same place that Kieran has his scar. And I'm just like, boy. Okay. So I have yet to be proven wrong on this.
Just keep it with you.
I'm keeping it with me. It's a small thing, but I'm keeping it.
We have there's other theories, which by the way could still fit in with that theory, but those are later on, so we're not going to mention them. But I can see actually them working together.
Yeah, it's a theory that I've seen a lot of people like circulate, and I'm honestly totally on board.
Isn't it nice when we're all on board?
Indeed. It rarely happens.
Yeah.
Also, Bundin, on the conceal, don't feel comment.
Yes.
Don't tell me Kieran is an 𝗪𝗃𝗍𝗃.
Never.
No.
Like, Elsa's stuff is because of her parents and scared of her powers. Kieran's own is just that if he lets people in, then he can't do what he does, because then it's whole mentally. We're not going to get into that. We just know your boy has issues. There's a reason he does conceal, don't feel. But he does sing Let It Go in the shower.
Yes.
He has an Elsa dress in his closet.
Oh, it matches his eyes.
It does. Yes. It would bring out his eyes quite nicely.
Indeed.
I think, okay, fan artists, you have your directive.
You have the floor.
I drew him in a Cinderella dress at one point, like
I think I saw
the like
that.
kids dress that you get at like the Disney store and whatever.
Like a Halloween costume.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool. Is that online?
Yeah, it's on my Instagram.
Oh, okay. I'll go scroll back. So anywho, Lauren responds in kind. You know, he became sarcastic, she becomes sarcastic, and she just slaps him on his freshly damaged back, and she says, haha, and poor Kieran, he's just like, his face.
Pain.
Oh, God.
He had it coming. Literally an icon
yeah.
serve from Lauren.
Poor guy.
He's in Spain minus the S.
Yeah. And then like she runs away and like she just like giggles. She's like, "Nice try, subordinate." And he's like trying to tap his back. Poor guy. He's like
Poor guy.
out of pain. I feel so
Poor
bad
guy
for
was poor guy was not blessed with double jointed shoulders.
him. God. Oh.
We
I love the
witnessed a murder.
slapstick comedy routine.
So anywho, this we now are with the purple hyacinth logo and Firedancer. I think you wanted to do the second part.
Bundin.
Bundin, sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, so we see, okay, we passed the logo, episode 28, and then we see Lauren holding a paper and then looking back. And she sees that Kieran is pulling up a shirt on. And their backs are to each other still. But then she kind of scrunches up the paper a bit and she says, "When people lie, I can hear a change of pitch in their voice. Just like how most people can distinguish sarcasm, I can hear it even in the subtlest. I can hear it even in the subtlest of lies." And we see Kieran look over his shoulder at her, kind of looking like what kind of a blank but intrigued expression.
Yeah.
Like intrigued but not overly like maybe a bit confused or surprised, but not as much as before.
Mhm.
And Lauren
Also-
continues.
Oh,
Oh, sorry, what do you want to say?
I just want to say it's also in the first two panels of this. You can also see Lauren struggling to open up as well because she has like she's scrunching the paper and she has like very pained expression on her face.
You know, this kind of cuts back to the first time he asked her about how her ability works before they went on their first on the 𝗦𝗂𝗍𝗃 mission, and she just was like, it just works, and she didn't give him anything. But now this is kind of her offering more because she's still feeling that gratitude, and she kind of is pushing herself to be a bit more open.
Standing an olive branch.
But I think something important we should know is that it's always Lauren being the one who like takes the first step communication wise. Like she's always the one reaching out. It's not Kieran. She's the one being open here. She's the one thanking him. She's the one apologizing. She's the one who's trying to like keep this relationship somewhat passable. But Kieran doesn't like, I'm not saying he should be held to the same standard because he obviously has his walls, but Kieran, like to his ability, he doesn't open up as much as Lauren. And while yes, he does have that trauma, which makes him not want to open up, I think it's interesting how Lauren finds it so much easier to be open with him than he does with her.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not surprised at all. And I think, you said it, but when you contemplate the difference in their upbringing, I think it's completely understandable and predictable because Lauren grew up in a very, very healthy, loving family until 12. So everything was completely wonderful to 12. And then even at 12, she lost her best friend and her parents. She had a loving uncle and she always had a normal world. We don't know of any other trauma in her life besides for that. So, she had friends, she had community, she had presumably a larger extended family, plus a replacement parental figure. And Kieran, we can kind of guess from a very, very young age, his entire world, and we don't even know what it was like before when he was younger, but we do know that he had a very traumatic and violent upbringing from a pretty young age. And at some point he became completely isolated and doesn't have any support system, probably from a pretty young age. So it's not surprising at all that he can't trust people because he's just had to be alone. And his circumstances are much worse than Lauren's too. If Lauren decided today to, break off this deal, she would just go back to her normal life. She doesn't suffer consequences. She has no danger in her life. But Kieran, he's cursed. He has no options. He knows that it's either kill or be killed. And whatever he does, he's going to be an early end. So it's completely unsurprising that he can't open up yet.
Well, no, it's more because all four of us agreed that we want 𝗥𝗲𝗍 to have a healthy relationship, right? But in a healthy relationship, you need an open dialogue from both characters. And while I don't expect Kieran to really talk about anything much or like just share what he's doing in general with Lauren at this point of the comic, I think just to the point we are currently, which is kind of spoilers, but not really, to the point where we are currently, I think it's just we haven't seen much willingness, like just generally we don't see much willingness from Kieran to really open up about issues. And I think there was even a recent chapter. There was a recent chapter where another character told Lauren more about Kieran than Kieran has really ever told himself about Lauren. And while yes, it is in character, and I would totally expect Kieran to act like this, I don't want him to act like this forever, because if we want Loon to work, and if we want 𝗥𝗲𝗍 to actually be progressive in their relationship, they can't just move past what happens between them and both of them like not address it. One person can address it, but the other person needs to address it at some point too, for them to actually work things out. So if we want Loon to be successful, Kieran is going to have to open up at some point and be willing and make efforts to have an open dialogue with Lauren. However, if he doesn't, then Loon is going to fail.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, because it is understandable why he wouldn't open up like as readily as Lauren. I say readily loosely, but as much as Lauren would off the bat, or even like at this point, because again, upbringing, it's also like part of his job where it's like, you don't open up to people because, like, first off, secrets, secondly, why would you do that? That's just weakness. But I do agree that in the long run, he's going to have to open up, because otherwise it's not going to work. Their partnership isn't going to work. Their relationship isn't going to work. So while it's understandable that he does have walls that are, I'd say, a bit tougher than Lauren's, they need to come down at some point.
Yeah, no, I kind of see it as more one, completely narratively, it makes sense why we don't know yet, because his backstory is kind of something that's being built up to, because he's not the character we're in the head of the most. That's Lauren. Lauren is the main character, but he's probably like the second main character. And we do see things from his perspective at times, but we don't have a lot of context. So that is a way to kind of build narrative tension and to build anticipation for us to see what got us here. But also, remember in the scene where they're dancing and he says that he did a background check on her, and Lauren was like, I do not want to know anything. So in a way, him being surprised right now could be him just being like, oh, are we sharing stuff now? Oh, thought we were going to do that, but okay, I was curious about this. But also we know that Kieran isn't, yeah, like you guys said, he's a very closed book that doesn't want to be open, but he will be. Just not now.
He will be. Because we have seen him in future episodes, at least at one point, like, reach out first, albeit he would have definitely had to have been the one to reach out first.
Yeah.
But he did do that, which, yay.
Yeah, but I think just at the point where we are now in the series, I don't think Loon can go back to being all right. And like the comic is going to say like, oh, hey, like Loon's doing great, but I don't think that Loon will actually ever be completely stable until Kieran opens up.
Oh yeah. Like
they can be there, they can exist, but it's not going to be a great relationship, even if the comic tells us it's going to be a great relationship and that everything is fixed and they're going to fix everything and they're going to save the city and take down the leader. Yeah, they'll probably do that. But realistically, they're going to have a horrible time doing it.
Yeah, no. If they want to do it as effectively and efficiently as they could, they're gonna have to trust each other, and that means opening up to one another. Which
I think it also. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, it's just because Lauren definitely has opened up more to Kieran, and then Kieran, I feel like at least future tense in this point in the story, now is about the time where he should probably start opening up to Lauren.
I think what plays out depends on what the author's intentions are.
Mhm.
So, you know, if they want Kieran to have a redemptive arc, then he will start opening up and do his healing. But if Kieran's ending is supposed to be the tragedy, then we may not ever get to see that. So, and I know for me, one of my favorite things to observe in storytelling is, you know, to see whether the characters reach, you know, whether their arc goes like up or down. Like, do they heal and, you know, improve their life by overcoming their, you know, personal issues, or do they persist in keeping their, never solving their issues, and then does that bring to their own downfall? So I think it really depends on what they plan for him as a character. Like, is it going to be a happy ending-ish, or is it going to be a tragedy?
Mhm.
You guys think Kieran will die at the end?
I don't want him to, but I have a strong suspicion.
I can't see him dying at all. I would be really disappointed if he did. Like, of course I would
Really?
be sad, but like from narratively, I would be more disappointed.
Really, why?
Well, because Purple Hyacinth is about forgiveness, right? That is what the flower is. The Purple Hyacinth represents forgiveness. And what we see with Kieran is that his storyline is basically you can do bad things but still be a good person, because there's just so many moral complexities to situations that you cannot just label someone as bad or good. And I don't know if it's been mentioned yet in the story, but there is the looming presence of the death penalty in this comic, and that is a very big theme that we eventually see come into more realization as the story progresses. And a lot of times in stories like these with characters like Kieran, we see death as either redemption or punishment. And I think for Kieran, he's more likely to go with the death is a redemption pathway. However, is that really a good trope? Is that what we want to teach people, that the only way that you can be free from your sins is to die? Because if you die to redeem yourself, then you aren't able to make the proper reparations to the people that you have hurt. If you die as a punishment, which is, you know, death penalty, again, that just plays into the issue of death penalty, which I could go on very long. I'm not sure if you guys want to hear it, but basically, to me, death is just not an appropriate punishment for serious crime, because oftentimes when you jail someone or you put them to death, you're trying to prevent another loss of life because they might be too dangerous. So deterrence. But by trying to prevent more loss of life, you are in effect causing more loss of life, which is ironic in the death penalty. So either Kieran is killed off as punishment for what he has done, which is doubtful because Kieran isn't really responsible for all the murders he's committed, or he's killed as redemption, which isn't a great fate because it's an easy way out for the character, as he doesn't have to put in the actual work and effort to properly redeem himself in the eyes of the public and probably the audience. Like, because, you know, again, he needs to make reparations and he needs to go to the victims' families and, you know, make those reparations and make those efforts to be a better person.
And I think also it's not just hard for, you know, you were saying it's the easy way out. It's not just hard in terms of making reparations to people. I think it's probably hard for him to live with himself. And I definitely I can see someone like him taking, you know, like a self-sacrifice as the easy way out, because he just finds the idea of living with himself harder. I definitely think that he's someone who doesn't like himself, and for him to look at himself in the mirror every day, I mean, as we'll see throughout the comic, is probably torturous. So, you know, we can only hope he has the strength to keep on living. I mean, we want him to, right?
But that is in turn the thing, because if Kieran gives in to that doubt and he gives into that hatred of himself and just that sadness that he carries with him, if he gives into that, and that is how our story ends, our character with a troubled past, who was abused, tortured, forced to commit horrible things that were out of his control, if we end the story with him giving up, what message does that send to the audience?
But I could also argue, I do see your point about what message would that send, but I could also argue that it is also a tragically human flaw, not flaw, but like a tragically human fate, where if you had done all the things that he did and had to live with yourself, I would perfectly understand just not wanting to live with yourself anymore, because it's hard.
The deep mental toll.
Yeah,
it
is a giant mental toll, and it is just, it's sadly human to just give up.
Yes, and that is human in that's true, but that's not how you want to end what probably will be a hopeful story, just telling from the way PH has been going.
I mean, depending on how it is,
hopefully.
It could be bittersweet, which
I see it bittersweet, but I see it being hopeful. And I don't think that a character effectively killing themselves is the way you want to end a story about forgiveness, because when you forgive someone for their actions, that person also has to learn to forgive themselves. And that is Kieran's character arc. So just telling the audience that the only option and that the only ending ends with death, then that's not really a great story.
I mean, it's like you have other characters as well that have arcs that are similar, that can show the different breadths and widths of that type of thing. So it's just the variety of it. I don't think it has any obligation to be anything more than it is.
Yeah, because
that makes sense.
Yeah, because I think if you have more than one character going through similar things, they're not going to pick the same path. It's one could go a completely opposite direction as the other, and that's the way humans are.
That's like the point with like parallel characters, you'll be able to see
what the other option was.
Yeah, what, like, it's not even options, it might not even be something that's consciously chosen, just kind of where the situations end up. So I don't know, I don't like to think too hard about how it ends, because that sets expectations that I don't want to be disappointed by, because that has happened to me in my previous fandoms. So I kind of just like to speculate but not think too hard on it, just be taken on the journey and take it for what it is and not be too critical, because at the end of the day it's entertainment.
Yeah, at the end of the day I just want it to be a good story.
So, I find it fascinating that we're discussing this, and I think that everything y'all have said is fantastic. And I've thought about this a lot because I also want to write stories. And one of the most influential ideas that I have in my head in terms of framing a story is the concept of foil, where you have two people who have either a similar personality or a similar experience, and they choose different paths, and they, that difference highlights, they're highlighted by each other. And a very skillful use of this was in John Steinbeck's East of Eden. And I don't know, have you guys read it?
No, but my friend just told me about another friend of hers who just read that book today. So that's really funny. So
basically what happens there is you have, it's kind of a modern retelling of the story of Cain and Abel, or the concept of Cain and Abel. And you have two brothers, it's several sets of brothers, and they each have a different personality. And one of them is kind of like the good brother, one of them is a bad brother. And then in the first set, the bad brother chooses a bad path, and he doesn't control himself. He is completely dissolute. He hates himself. He hates his life. He makes bad choices. He's a horrible person. And then you have like a foil to that. You have another set of brothers where, again, temperamentally, one of them is more inclined to be good, and the other one has struggles with like anger issues and self-control and things like that. And basically the book ends, the main thesis of the book, and it centers around like a specific verse where it's humans have free choice, and you can choose to be good and you can choose to be bad. And it ends with the second set of brothers where the second one basically chooses to work on himself and to go down the good path. So you have both of those in the story. You have the person who went down the bad path because he couldn't stop himself, didn't, which is like a, main thesis there. And then you have the second set. So for me, I like that because you have both the realistic side, because sadly you look around and the world is filled with people who can't or don't, that's a big question, change their path. Then you have people who do, can overcome similar struggles and can become better. So I know for myself, when I want to write things, I always want to have both of that, because I don't want to deny, my friends accuse me of being like a Pollyanna. Like I'm very optimistic personally. And I don't want to deny the realities that exist and the tragedies that exist in human life. So I want to have both. But I also, like you said, Fwoot, I want people to have an optimistic message and to say, hey, I could work on myself. I could have a better life. So I want to have both in my stories.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I don't want Kieran to die. I hope he doesn't die. I feel like there is a very intelligent way that it could be written where he doesn't die, because a lot of people expect it. And I would like to have that and have it be satisfying. But if it's like a deus ex machina at the end, I think I'll be a bit annoyed. But that's just me and me not enjoying deus ex machinas.
True. Yeah, because like at the end of the day, if there's a way for him to live, I will take it any day. Because like, as much as I harp on him dying, I don't want him to, because like, he's my boy. But like, I can very easily see a path where he bites the dust and I will still cry. So it depends.
I think though, again, PH is about healing. That is like, in Soph's own words, PH is about healing, and healing isn't giving up. Healing is overcoming your struggles, no matter how hard they are and how hard the path forward is. Healing is making reparations. Healing is forgiveness. Healing is it is trying to be a better person and moving past past experiences. And so if Purple Hyacinth is dedicated to that message of that things will get better and that you can be better, and that your past actions don't define you, especially actions that that you had no control over. If PH is dedicated to that message, then I can't see Kieran dying, because that would just be contradictory.
Let's pray for like F to work her magic to when she's writing it.
We will see what happens.
Yeah. Okay.
Great discussion.
So,
yeah, let's
continue.
We
haven't even gotten to the middle yet.
Yeah.
No, I think that was a fantastic discussion, like foundational for both the story and honestly for life in general. So,
it's good to discuss these things, different perspectives.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I get to hear it even in the subtlest of lies, but catching the lie doesn't tell me the truth behind it. Sometimes lies conceal too many possibilities. Then it cuts back to Lauren looking down at the paper in her hands, and she says, and I can only hear it if someone says something they don't actually believe. If they truly believe something that's objectively false, it'll sound true to me. And then it cuts to Kieran looking at her again and looking actually intrigued right now. And he says, interesting, fascinating, actually. And you've always had this ability? And then Lauren, still looking down at her paper, says, for as long as I can remember, yes. And then we see, like, this is written in italics. It says, why reveal that to me now? And then Lauren looks up from the paper and says, why did you save me? Also in italics. And then she turns to face him. It's just
so good.
They're at a standoff.
Parallelism. Yeah, and they're literally standoff. Suddenly everything around them is black with stars, and it's so good.
It's good to like get the information about how Lauren has the lies though, because it makes sense, because if someone says something that they believe that is false, then it would sound like a lie, I guess. Because if someone believes it's all about personal belief, which I think makes sense.
Yeah, I remember reading this for the first time and being like, yes, finally, because we actually get like some development with Lauren on like, oh my god, just brain farted. Okay, on like how her ability works, and I feel like we needed that moment of like getting or like learning about how her ability works, since like it's so fundamental to the comic, and yet we still at this point had only really known the basics of it, like, oh hey, they're lying, she knows when they're lying, but you know, she answered a lot of questions here.
Yeah, because it's like up until this point it's just been like you know, because you just know, like it's very badass what she does, but at the same time it's kind of just like, but how does that work exactly? What are the flaws? What are the strengths of it? We like it's good that we have this information.
Bundin, if you think about it, it's kind of like a Deus Ex Machina.
It's not a Deus Ex Machina, because this Deus Ex Machina happens at the end of the story, or at least like the end of an arc or climax of an arc, where it's just something that happens that's not like set up for in the world, right? Because like you could have something that happens, but if it's set up, it's all about the setup. We already know that she can hear lies, so it's just hearing how it works that's what we need. But I like her ability to hear lies is woven into the story. That's like the crux of it almost. So I like learning how it works is just a part of world building, and her telling Kieran, and by proxy telling us, is a great way of exposition, because we don't have a lot of characters explaining a giant thing, because y'all know I love the visual storytelling, and this is a visual medium, so having that is great, but you do need to have dialogues explaining things sometimes in order to learn more about the world. So I think this is a really organic way to do it, because it's still early enough in the story that it's not like you've been waiting to hear how it happened, but it's still like kind of something you've been waiting to get confirmation about. So good timing for it, and well done.
Oh yeah, what I'm also wondering is, does anyone else in PH have powers? Because
that's the big question.
Yeah, because the lying ability is just so unique to a story like this. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever had a story where the main character's superpower was they could tell lies. But like, so now I'm wondering, because this is such a rare and just unique occurrence, are superpowers or just special abilities, because not necessarily superpowers, are special abilities common in this world? Are there other people like Lauren, or is it just her?
I think just her, because otherwise people would believe her, or like her uncle would believe her, or I think it would come up in the story.
Yeah, I feel like if
is it just such a small few?
Yeah, I feel like if it was common, like they would be inclined to believe her, but I feel like it's a very uncommon thing, if very rare.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's like, you know, every random person on the street has it, but like, are there other people out there like Lauren?
I mean, the Courageous have been notoriously tight-lipped about that. They don't outright deny it, but they don't.
They're just kind of just like, maybe they do, maybe they don't.
Which, you know, I prefer. Give us a bit of suspense, but I feel like it opens up the possibility to it, and we just kind of have to see if we can get any clues about that going forward, reading and everything.
Yeah.
And we, like she said, she's had this ability for as long as she can remember. That doesn't mean she's always had it. It just could be that she got it when she was young. Maybe she was born with it, maybe not. So again, as we learn more, we'll get more. But I'd like to think there's maybe like a couple more people in this world that have it, but that also depends on how she got the power. Again, born with it or received it somehow.
Genetics.
Genetics, man.
Okay, so we have them. Oh, do you want to say something, Mindy?
It's okay, it's fine.
So they're facing off again. Let us acknowledge the beautiful art in this arc, because their faces are so well done with the lighting.
And the eyes, their eyes both look just almost cat-like, just like reflective.
Yeah, this is some of my favorite art in the whole thing.
Here, you know, Kieran's taken aback and she's standing firm, like she's not going to back down. Oh,
And
Gorgeous.
so then it cuts to Kieran, and he kind of looks a bit more serious. He kind of turns to the side, looks to the side, and he says, well, if you died, I'd be back to square one, wouldn't I? I need our partnership for my little vendetta as much as you do for yours. And he didn't lie about those. Those are all truths.
But is it the whole truth?
It is because she just said the truth does not mean that it's like the lies can hide certain truths, so there could be too many possibilities. So that has to work for truths as well. Because something can be true, but it's not the whole truth.
Yeah, because we find out down the line, this man lives in half-truths, like, flipping hell.
Reason number, like, I don't know at this point, in the
2001.
millions, why I don't trust this man.
Everyone's got their secrets.
Okay, then it cuts back to Lauren staring at him, but she's kind of smiling this time, and she says, indeed, you do a terrible job interrogating criminals without my help. And then he kind of folds his arms and he kind of has an amused expression, and he's like, oi, you wouldn't even know who to question in the first place without me. So just getting some banter again. A lot more lighthearted mood. And so she says,
do we switch over at this point?
I'd say
yeah, we
one
can.
more.
Yeah,
Oh, one? Okay.
I can do that now. It's fine.
Oh.
Flows into your own quick. So yeah.
All right. So she then says, I know we have a rule, but I wonder, why do you value not killing without orders so much? Which is a question I feel like we all have been wondering.
Also,
And
can we just say, I know we have a rule, but
this is the first of many buts that should have been addressed, Lauren.
also you could kind of, I don't know, like this is kind of the vibe I get. We just talked about her kind of opening up to him. I think she's trying to use that to get more out of him now.
Yeah.
She's like, I know we have a rule, but she's like, I gave you something. You want to share with the class? Yeah.
And then like she turns her eyes and then she says, considering the reputation you have. And then it's kind of, the color kind of drains from the panel. It's just like, he starts frowning.
It's all backlit.
Yeah, it's all backlit and dark. And it's like, the color kind of just drains from his face as well as all the humor.
I feel like he has this bitterness again because he's being thrust back into like that self-hatred and a reminder of who he is. Oh, I just feel so bad for him.
I know. Yeah, I agree. It's the very bitter frown that he has. He just says, when you lead a life such as mine, you need to abide by strong rules and never let go of them. Otherwise, you'll lose sight of who you are.
His face.
Oh, the face, like, oh. It just looks like he aged 10 years there.
He just looks tired and mad and just, he looks like he's not being threatening to her, but he's just kind of thinking of dark things. He looks like he's not like mentally in a darker place now.
Yeah. Yeah. And then,
Well done, so well portrayed.
It is so well done. And it's the line where it says, you abide by strong rules, and if you let go of them, you'll lose sight of who you are. I don't know, I just kind of think, we'll either see him or someone else related, like someone else kind of let go of their rules at some point. I don't know. It just seems foreboding to me. And then you can see in the next panel, he looks away from her and just he has dead eyes, as I say. It just, all light is gone from his eyes. And then he
Who hurt you?
Who hurt you? Him.
The Phantom Size.
Him. So many people.
Specifically, I need names for reasons.
It's a long list.
All started when I was born.
When my parents failed to show up to my own birth.
You see Doofenshmirtz now? I knew that reference.
Oh my god.
My parents didn't even show up to my birth.
Poor lad has had it so rough.
Maybe Bundin. I'm so glad you got the reference.
Yeah. Just remember, 𝗣𝘁𝗱𝗃 grew up to be a great dad.
Hey.
Just saying. It's all
His
right.
daughter was my 𝗪𝗂𝗃𝗃.
I feel that. Just all right, and then after you see all the light has gone from his face, he then says, and by the time you realize it, it'll be too late. She then turns back to him and says, and those purple hyacinths you leave behind, what do they mean? Obviously they're a threat, but that's not all. And you can, it's a close-up of his hand, and you can just kind of see he's like, I think trying to like dig his nails into his palm. At
Like,
least
you know
that's
that
what it
scene
looks
in Pride and Prejudice after he helps her into the
like.
carriage,
Yeah.
and then he's walking away. And
He's just like, oh
yeah, it's that, but not romantic. More
no,
just-
it's that, but not happy feelings.
Also, I like the fact that she's asking about the purple hyacinths, because even when she first finds out his identity at that crime scene, she just
said-
contemplates, she's like, maybe they're an apology.
Yeah.
As we all know, purple hyacinths are a symbol of regret and mourning, and are considered a symbol of apology. So she's kind of had that idea at the back of her head literally since the night she met him. And she's kind of curious about that now, because she feels like there's more than one meaning to it, as we all do.
And she's seeing the human side of him now. She's seeing the good side of him. So, you know,
There's
she
a
kind of wants to
person in
verify
there.
that. Mhm.
It's like, oh my god, you are human. Right. And then yeah, he kind of digs his nails into his palm and then lets go of it. And he says in italics, the hyacinths represent the royal crest. Isn't the message clear enough? He says that with
Which
like a
is-
really the expression in his face, I don't know how quite to describe it, but like
Menacing.
mask.
menacing. Yeah, it's a mask and also a little bit like, yeah, it's it just makes me, yeah, it just makes me sad when I see this panel, because it's like you can immediately just see he shut down. He like any progress he made in opening up, just like it's gone.
I think he's overcompensating, which is why he, you know, the italics and the opening up the hand. He's like, okay, I was tense, and I'm gonna go act again. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna be dramatic, right? He reverts back to, like you said, the mask. So he opens up his hand and, you know, emphasizes his words and says something that is, while not a lie, again, you know, it's just the version he wants to put forth.
And his wording is interesting because
Right.
Lauren asks him, and those purple hyacinths you leave behind, what do they mean? Obviously they're a threat, but that's not all. And Kieran, he doesn't say the purple hyacinths represent blank. He says the hyacinths represent the royal crest, which is a fact. In the world of PH, purple hyacinths are the like national flower or something.
They're on the crest of the family.
and
They're
they
like
are-
a
yeah.
symbol.
They're on the
of
crest
royalty.
along with the stag. And so he says, isn't the message clear enough? Not that like the message is clear or that is supposed to be the message, which would be
Right.
lies in that case.
Hey, man, I'm just sorry. I just realized, because it's like the stag is also a symbol. I'm just thinking, if it really was just about murdering and being threatening to the
The dead
royals, we have to
deer.
have like a dead stag in every.
He just carries like he just carries a deer with
deer
him.
eggs.
Like,
God.
the-
You just
Oh,
say
no.
you just say like antlers at the scene
Yeah.
of every crime scene.
Oh my god! Like
like
instead
that
of a
scene in The
katana,
Godfather
he
where
just stab-
the horse head in the bed, except it's just a stag.
Oh my
Like,
god!
oh god, the
Bundin.
stag is back at it again.
Bundin,
Sorry.
instead of like carrying a katana, he just stabs people with like antler
Deer
horns.
horns.
Antlers.
Like antlers.
Oh boy.
I would
sorry.
love that. I would love that so much.
Yeah, but you're totally right. His phrasing is really evasive, right? He doesn't say, you know, isn't, you know, like instead of saying, yeah, this is the message I want to send, he's like, isn't the message clear enough? Yeah, he's deliberate with his word choice.
Yeah, it's very interesting because at the same time, he words it so specifically, but very vague in the grand sense. But also Lauren's question was, I'm guessing, not exactly how she meant it, because she asked, yeah, because it's like, she asked, what do they mean? But she didn't ask what they mean to you.
And then also he's kind of, he's making a statement about things that are true, because they could have multiple meanings, because that were probably a threat to the royals too, but that's probably not their primary meaning.
Yeah,
but
it was
like,
probably just an added bonus.
There's a story behind that. We'll get that soon. It's gonna hurt.
Oh, it's gonna hurt so much. Yeah, so I find it interesting that he's not being specific to himself, but also the question wasn't specific to him, so
but also
he can get away with it.
She just told him how her thing works, so he's
set for life on how to avoid her questions.
He's like, okay, I already took note about how to not. So let's use that now. Great timing. Thank you for telling me that right before this.
I can't believe this man wiggled out of like being honest. Wow. Like
if he's honest,
he tricked her into letting him always be telling the truth, even when it's not the truth. Like, damn. Okay.
Mental gymnastics that this man
the
goes
mask
through.
Isn't just for her benefit; it's for his as well. Because if he acknowledges it himself, how will he live with himself?
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah, Bundin.
When the mask is for as much for him, it's arguably more for him than it is for anybody else. For everybody else, it's more of a shield to keep people out of it and to kind of keep the image. Because if other people begin to see that he's just a person, then he can't fit that into his mental image of himself and how he can live with himself, at least for now.
Yeah, because if he at this
double
point,
homicide.
Double homicide. Oh god. No, because if he lets the mask down for even a second, he's gonna break, because like you can kind of see it throughout the comic. If he is like one instance away from a mental breakdown, like if he lets that down, he is going to break. Oh goodness,
it's the denial for me. Also, after the next line, like what a stupid question line, I have a thought, and it's kind of funny, and I think you guys might want to hear it.
All right, then let me get to that then. Passing the message clearly. He then says, "It's always been an explicit threat to the royals. One of the many that the Phantom Scythe constantly sends out." What a stupid question to ask, officer. I thought the police already knew that much.
Okay, y'all want to hear my theory or just my thought?
Go for
Basically, isn't it weird how everyone in the APD just assumes that the purple hyacinths are a threat to the royals? Like, how many people are in the APD, and how many of them all think that the flowers are a threat? Because yes, they are on the royal crest. How many of them are a little fruity and know the meaning of flowers? Like,
I mean, I also kind of think of it like, I don't know if the US has like a very well-known national flower, but a lot of countries have like the flowers are symbols. Like our national flower, if someone kept murdering people that were in like government positions and like stuff like that, or like helping the police with corruption or whatever, and they were leaving our national flower at those places, my first thought would be, oh, that's a threat to the government.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
But these are the APD. They are supposed to be some of them are supposed to be detectives. Do you think they never, like in the 7 years that the purple hyacinth was active, do you think they never even considered it? Like not one of them considered it?
I mean, okay.
I wonder what the meaning of flowers are, especially since we grew up with this flower our entire lives. And do you think there's not one florist out there who is writing like purple hyacinth fanfic because they think that this guy regrets his actions and then Loki is simp for it?
Oh no, not the self-inserted fanfic. No. Like to the APDs not questioning if it is just a threat to the royals. I think we've established at this point the APD are a bunch of bumbling idiots.
Remember, they've got people in the APD too. They want to set the narrative.
Yes, they want to set the narrative. So I feel like since they got so many spies in the APD, it's just they are regurgitating what the Phantom Scythe wants so that everyone will go along with this idea. So it's like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense. It's just a threat to the royals. It's why would there be any other reason to question? Because other than the flowers themselves, there's no evidence that he shows any remorse at all.
This is why Ardhalis needs accessible, free education for all of its citizens, because some of them clearly would have never passed the first grade.
I mean, the timing of this is like in terms of like the latest. This is the 1940s inspiration up to the 1800s. So I doubt there's universal free education yet. Rip.
I mean, Bundin, later episodes.
What?
They say something about free education in later episodes.
They do.
They do?
Bundin, you think I wouldn't be caught up on all the socialist themes in this
Fast
concept?
Pass?
Oh, goodness, Fwoot.
It's not Fast Pass, don't worry.
Okay, yeah.
I think
mid-50s.
I think I might know.
I live in a country that provides universal free healthcare up to university, so, but you know, that depends on how the economy is, but that's a whole nother thing. But yeah.
Yeah. How much stock do you think Ardhalis lost because of the Phantom Scythe? And then, like, you know, the Allendale train station, like,
how much tourism do they lose each year because of all the murders?
What even is the Ardhalis economy like? Like, I had this conversation like 2 weeks. I just joined the like Discord server, and we were like, what is the economy like in Ardhalis? Like, how badly must it be? Because like, are they bankers, I guess? Do they produce any like materials? Because it's a city.
I mean,
is there a
factories.
greater kingdom? Yeah, there are your factories, but I don't know if you knew that yet.
And we know now that it's the capital of a greater kingdom. It's like the same name, kind of like how like Mexico has Mexico City.
Yeah.
Like that. But
Yeah,
I
so
don't know,
we
we
like,
don't know the size of it. I guess we might learn that later.
I really hope we do. It's gonna add so much to the world building.
Yeah. I feel like
let's
we derailed.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
getting off topic.
It's all right. It happens.
What's new?
All right. So after he says it's one that many of the Phantom Scythe constantly sends out. What a stupid question to ask. What a stupid question to ask, officer. I thought the police already knew that much. And then that is after he puts that is the redirecting to an insult so that she'll change the topic. Because he clearly does not want to talk about it anymore. And then he said, let's get started on this file on Ned Colden. We've got a lot of stuff to cover regarding what Flexley revealed tonight. And then she's just kind of looking up at him, just kind of like, sus. She looking sus. And then she's thinking to herself, he's not lying, but is this really the whole truth? And you can just see him, you don't see his face, you just see him like looking down, kind of like his shoulders are dropped, and it's just like, he looks wilted. That's what he looks like. He looks wilted.
He's an enigma. It's the symbolism.
Oh.
Then that cuts to a black screen, and then Fwoot, it's on you.
Okay. Well. Sorry, I lost my place. I was looking at the previous comic. So Lauren, I just want to say that Lauren, he's not lying, but is this really the whole truth? She's dead on to that. Because like,
oh yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if she started suspecting that Kieran asked her how the ability works, so he would be able to like skirt around that. So interesting.
Yeah, because she was a detective, so very, very good observation skills.
So when she says, "Is this really the whole truth?" we get a flashback and we get this dialogue bubble that says, "You were that boy," and then slash, and we see a streak of blood across the screen, and then we see footsteps and their boots, and we see the chandelier, and it's illuminated by some backlight in a window. We see a body being dragged, and then something hanging from the ceiling, and it's a very tall room. It's very dark, but the windows are blinding. And yeah, we see someone dragging a bleeding corpse, which is, you know, just regular Tuesday evening, you know, no big
Also,
deal.
this is a throwback to that flashback we had when Kieran was in the bar going to report those 2 kills. We saw him talking to a man who also said, "You were that boy," and then him presumably killing him. So now we know where that went.
Yay.
Well, that escalated quickly. And then we see this boy, and his face is covered in darkness, so we can't really see his eyes, but he is, again, the windows behind him are illuminated. And then we see
Also,
his
his
face.
hair is shorter.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be in a bun yet.
No.
We see his face is splattered with blood, and it goes down to his chest, and his eyes are just dead. There is no life to them.
Back at it again with the dead eyes.
I
Back
kind
at
of
it again at Krispy Kreme. Just killed a dude.
I tend to think here a little bit that I feel like maybe Kieran tends to like disassociate a little bit, like during the moments where he has like dead eyes. It's like I feel like it could very easily be a coping mechanism for him to just kind of like, I ain't here, no one's home.
I mean, that does happen often when someone is going through something traumatic. They kind of describe it like your mind is floated away from your body, and it's kind of you're doing things, but you're not consciously doing them. And it is a way for you to kind of process a traumatic event, or like in the middle of an event, it's kind of like a shield for your psyche almost. So I don't think that it's very far off to say that he spaces out during these times.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better. And so the next panel we get is this man hanging from the chandelier, this corpse, and his blood is just dripping onto the floor, which is reflecting again the windows. And it's a beautiful panel. Like, it's gruesome, but I might have included it in my collection of PH panels I would use to get people to read PH.
The composition itself, it's like it's the symmetry, the lighting. Again, it's like backlighting. This corpse, it's very macabre, this kind of image of a hanged man dripping blood onto the floor. But it's a beautiful area. Like, this place is a beautiful building with shiny floors and high vaulted ceilings and a chandelier. It's just so pretty. And then just cinematic and atmospheric.
Why do I have a sudden urge? Because the way it's composed, it is composed so beautifully and so like perfectly for what I am gonna say. Like, I almost want to put this as like a phone background, because it's like it works so well.
The way I might have had it as a phone background but don't remember having it as a phone background scares me. Like, I might have had this as the background of my phone wallpaper at some point. Because it is genuinely, it is one of my favorite panels of this entire comic, and I don't think we talk about it enough.
True.
Yeah.
But we talk about Chandelier Man.
Yeah, we talk about him a lot. So as we scroll down, this composition just works beautifully. As we scroll down, we see the blood dripping down, and it just works. The movement works, and then it's dripping onto a hyacinth, a purple hyacinth at that, and this hyacinth is just laying in a pool of blood.
Wow, perfection.
And that is how the episode ends.
The creators note though, I'm gonna swing from the chandelier.
Not
From the chandelier.
That's what kind of joke my husband would make.
Doesn't exist.
Oh my God.
Wait, hold up.
Yeah,
Let me
it's
just
very.
check something before we end this.
Okay.
Because I feel like I heard something about the Chandelier song and now I'm a little scared. I'm gonna fact check it real quick.
Oh goodness. While you're doing that, I will say this episode right here has one of my favorite tracks. It is like blurry line is chef's kiss perfection. It captures the emotions of just, I'd say, just despair and like it's very melancholy, and it is, you can feel the conflicted emotions in it, and it's very nice.
The way that my computer has been playing the music. Oh, rip.
Yeah, and this is, this is the flashback that he's thinking of when she asks him, why do you leave the purple hyacinths? So, we can kind of speculate that this is maybe the first time he started leaving the purple hyacinths, and this is why he flashes back to this memory.
And then also the fact that this is something that we've seen now twice in the series. We know that this is a big deal for him. Whatever happened here with this man and this man's murder deeply affected him, to the point that when he thinks about the reason why he does things and the reason why he is the way he is, he thinks back to this scene, to this moment in his life. So
I just want to know, like, you can, like, it's kind of obvious, like, what prompted him to use the hyacinths, like, as an apology, but I just want to know, like, did he just, like, think of this as he was gonna kill this person? Because, like, if the theory, like, at this point, like, a bunch of people, like, theorized, or it's just like, oh, is this, like, either a really important kill or maybe his first kill? If it was his first kill, like, did he premeditate that, where it's just like, I'm gonna bring a hyacinth with me and it's all gonna be good? Or did he just find one and it's just like, this works?
I have a personal theory that he grew up in or around a flower shop. That's just a personal thing.
Oh my God,
I don't know.
For florists.
His parents were florists.
Yeah, or like something like that. I don't know. Like, he knows too, like, I don't know. I feel like there has to be something there, because kids don't, I mean, other than your boy, this is a later thing, but there is another character we see later who knows about a lot of the meanings of flowers. And that was because they grew up in an environment where that would be understandable. So I think that can apply, or it's something to, like, there's possibilities.
Or maybe when he was younger, he would go to, like, a flower shop and just draw.
That's a good one.
Okay, I found what I was looking for. So I'm looking at this lyric analysis of Chandelier, and the blog I'm referencing is, I think it's the blog, it's called 𝗏𝗏𝗏madness.com, and I'm just basically summarizing it. The song is about an addict who uses alcohol in a I'm quoting them. This girl uses alcohol in a severely unhealthy way to numb her feelings. She gives the impression of going out and having fun, but she is depressed and probably dependent on alcohol to numb her emotions.
Yeah.
And then for the other half of the chorus, but I'm holding on for dear life, won't look down, won't open my eyes, keep my glass full until morning light, because I'm just holding on for tonight. Now, swinging from the chandelier has a double meaning. It is symbolic of living an unconventional free life to the fullest. Here it seems to be symbolic of near catastrophe. She is barely holding on. She can't even look at what she is doing.
Oh, goodness.
And reading further into this, I'm just holding on to tonight is carefully worded. On one hand, it can mean she is holding on for the night. She will make it through. The darker interpretation is that she will only hold on for tonight.
Right.
Once the night is over, she will let go into death. This isn't as implausible as it sounds. If we think back to the alcohol references, it's possible she's trying to overdose. She's swinging from the chandelier as a cry for help. People tend not to think of alcohol as a dangerous drug, but people die from it all the time. The way Sia says in that sentence, I'm just holding on for tonight, over and over at the end of the song, implies this dark interpretation. So in the second verse, sun is up, I'm a mess, gotta get out now, gotta run from this, here comes the shame, here comes the shame. The night was not a fun party at all. She's ashamed of the act she performed and wants to run away from it, which again applies to Kieran. And then it cycles back into 1, 2, 3, drink. You could try to argue that this is how songs work. There are verses and choruses. You shouldn't interpret them as real form in real life cycle, because all songs have this cyclic form. Here, I think it's justified. She wants to get rid of the shame, and her coping mechanism is to drink. So she starts throwing them back to forget and become happy and carefree again. This is, yeah, I'm gonna scroll down a bit more and then, okay. I'll reiterate here just how dark this song is. It's not merely about addiction and its horrendous cycle. Sia makes pointed references to her life ending. We hear her live like tomorrow doesn't exist, but really what she's saying is that tomorrow might not exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very profound song.
Oh yeah, just oh.
So
I'm starting to wonder, like, this is just my crack theory, but like, was the Chandelier Man made the Chandelier Man because the song applied, or like was the song just a coincidence?
I think they just mentioned it afterwards because they were
Yeah,
thought it was
no.
funny.
Yeah, I think they just thought it was funny because, like, knowing, like, a lot of the times when they answer questions, they're like, "Oh, we just did that because it was the first thing we thought of," or something like that. But I like to find things where they weren't intended necessarily fun.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that that is a plot point that we're curious about is where the man says, you were that boy. So obviously the man knows him, and then who that boy, like Kieran was significant to him. He was significant at some point as a boy, and it's like, why? What happened? How did they know each other? What did it mean he was that boy? What was he? So lots of unanswered questions.
Other than why did he hesitate? You were that boy? What does it mean? Is one of my biggest questions.
Indeed. Oh god. So many questions, so little answers.
Yeah. Anyway, on that note, we should end because it's been quite a long podcast, but a very, very good one. Really, really great discussion.
Yes.
And
thank you.
love this stuff.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for coming on and for sharing.
Great podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fantastic discussion. Really, really great. Well, thanks so much, y'all. I will catch y'all later. See you. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.